Hi everyone, so this is the fourth and final video about the Commerce Clause that I'm recording for the online section of this class. The first video went over what we've studied before about how up until 1937 the court interpreted the Commerce Clause very narrowly and they struck down a lot of what Congress wanted to do. So when Congress wanted to pass a law and they said they were doing it because of interstate commerce, the Supreme Court said no very often until 1937. Starting in 1937 with the New Deal and the Great Depression, we saw a change where the Supreme Court started letting Congress do what they want based on the Commerce Clause. We saw that the civil rights legislation, the Civil Rights Act, was found constitutional, which meant it could stay in the 1960s based on the Commerce Clause. And what we have is from 1937 until 1995, every single time Congress passed along the Commerce Clause and someone brought it to the Supreme Court said it was constitutional. So basically, Congress had really expanded powers. Congress could make pretty much any law it wanted and base it on the Commerce Clause. That all came to an end in 1995 with U.S. versus Lopez, and that continued in 2000 with U.S. versus Morrison, where the Supreme Court said that guns in schools and violence against women are not economic and they're local. So Congress can't use an interstate commerce clause because that means it has to both be commerce and it has to be interstate. So that's a really narrow view. Then we get to Gonzalez versus Reich in the mid-2000s, where the Supreme Court changes its mind again and decides that federal laws on marijuana are okay, even applied to people in California who are growing weed in California that they were ingesting in California. So what this means is that it's not really sure where we are with the Commerce Clause. Congress could do whatever it wanted from 1937 until 1995. Then we saw really strict cases in 1995 and 2000. And then we see regulation again of something that looks like it's not commerce, right? No one was buying marijuana or selling it. It was a woman growing it with seed she already had. And she was growing it and smoking it in California, so no other states were affected. So it's really unclear. What we have is one recent case which ended up not really being decided on the Commerce Clause, but I'm gonna lead you through anyway because it might give us a sense of where the Supreme Court is going with the Commerce Clause. So this case is National Federation of Independent Business versus Sebelius. Sebelius is spelled S-E-B-E-L-I-U-S. It's spelled S-E-B-E-I-L-U-S, and it was decided in 2012. And this is the Supreme Court case about the Patient Protection and Affordable Care Act, ACA, which is also called Obamacare. And in particular, it was about the individual mandate. Now, the individual mandate said that every taxpayer in the United States had to get health insurance. And if you didn't buy health insurance, then when you did your taxes, you'd have to pay a tax penalty. So everyone had to get health insurance or pay a tax penalty. So what happened is that in the end, the Supreme Court said Congress was allowed to make this individual mandate. There was different parts of the law at issue. Some were struck down, most upheld, but the individual mandate is what this little mini lecture is about. Now, what happened at the Supreme Court is that there was a really fractured opinion. And there's 9 judges and they combined in different ways, which is why some parts were upheld, some parts weren't, some parts were different. And what you end up coming is that a majority of the judges, so enough to decide the case, decided that this was okay, but it was okay under Congress's power to tax, not because of the Commerce Clause, okay? Because Congress is allowed to tax, that's in the Constitution. That's another one of the things listed in Article 1, Section 8, that they can lay and collect taxes. And this is taxes, and the IRS can decide what federal taxes are, okay? So the Supreme Court said that it is okay. The individual mandate of Obamacare was constitutional, and that it was constitutional under Congress's power to tax. And one of the reasons it was okay is because the penalty wasn't so high to be coercive, because no matter what, the penalty would always be less than the cost of getting insurance. So if this was really punitive, the Supreme Court said it might be different. So for example, if you said something like $10,000 or $1 million if you don't get health insurance, that might not be okay. But a penalty that's less than what it would cost to get health insurance is okay. And also, if you didn't pay the penalty, there's no criminal law, so you wouldn't get arrested for not paying the mandate. You just owe it to the federal government in taxes.